Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar, No Worries, Strategies for Stressing Less. And this is part one of a three-part series today. And part one, focus, is attention, and I'm glad that you're all joining us today. And we have quite an interesting seminar or webinar planned for you today. And we're very glad you're here because it would be no fun at all if it was just me talking to myself. So thank you so much for joining us, and get ready for some fun. I'm your moderator, Randy Quaren. I'm a Senior Communications Specialist here at PeaceHealth. And the whole point of us being here today is not just for us to be talking to you and at you. We need this to be interactive. We want to hear from you. Now, you're on mute. Don't take that personally. It's not because we don't want to hear what you have to say, but if all several hundred of us talk at the same time, nobody's going to hear anything. So you're on mute. But we do want you to be ready to participate in some polls and some quizzes. So from time to time, over the coming few minutes, we're going to put up a poll, and you need to reach to your keyboard or your mouse, grab it, and answer so we can find out what you are thinking and saying and feeling. If you're having any trouble, not a problem, there's a help button that you'll be able to click. And if you miss anything, or if you want to share this later on to this week or in the future or review it, you can go to our website at peacehealth.org/stress-less, and you'll be able to see all of this information once again. If you're on your smartphone and you have a question, it's real simple. At the top of your smartphone, you see that question mark. We have it circled with a yellow elliptical, a roundy thingy. Then just click that and type in your message, and we'll get it. If you're on your desktop and you see where it says type your message here, go ahead and type your message right there. And we'll be feeding those questions to our presenter throughout the coming minutes, and you'll be able to hear the answers to those as well. Oh, and one more thing. At the end of our presentation, we're going to announce which one of you, which one of our webinar participants has been randomly selected to win a Fitbit. So hang on for that. They're a pretty cool thing, and it's a little device that if you interact with it, you can increase your health and your happiness. Now here's our speaker for today. That's her on the back of the horse there. It's Susie Griffin. She's a BA, I think that's Bachelor of Arts, LMT, LMP, AS. I'm already out of my element right here. You've got a lot of alphabets after your name right there, and a lot of experience. 23 years. That's taken her from Alaska through the Pacific Northwest down to Google in Mountain View, California. Man, that seems like about as far as Alaska as you could get. And you've done a lot of different things. They all seem to be related to one thing, though, which is finding peace and joy and happiness and relaxation, which brings us to what we're trying to accomplish here today, is reducing stress. So, Susie, welcome. And how do we do all of this?
Awesome. What a great intro. Thanks, Randy. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. So I'm going to kick off today by sharing with you a story. So last Sunday, I participated in the Shamrock Run in Portland. And before my race started, I was on the sidelines cheering on the half marathoners who were about partway through their race. And this was middle to maybe the back of the pack runners, and all of them were showing signs of stress. Their face and body muscles were tight, they had poor posture, they were sweating, their breathing was labored, they probably had a high heart rate, their gait was kind of shuffling, they were just getting through the race. However, when I extended my arm and hand to give them high fives, let me just do that in there. The runners who saw it immediately, their eyes got wide and bright. They had a smile on their face. Their posture improved, and their stride became light and energized. Now they had to spend energy to get more energy, but by tapping into their potential, they were able to pull themselves out of the depths of their stress, and in essence, they became more alive. And that is what I wish for you over these three-part series. is to increase your option and resource lists, know when and how to implement them, and then practice and refine and master those techniques so that you will stress less. Which brings me to today. So a quick overview of the series. So as Randy mentioned, we are today focusing on increasing our awareness and paying more attention to scenarios and situations that stress us, and how we personally respond to the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual ways in which we respond to those stressors. We're going to recognize when we feel imbalanced, and sooner than later. So we're going to recognize how and when we're imbalanced sooner than later and how that is important to our health. And the way in which we're going to do that is we're going to build perspective, because we know what it looks like, what it feels like when we are our best self, when we are coming alive. And then finally, breath. It's essential to life, but as it relates to stress, it is the telltale sign of what we're doing, how we're feeling, and it brings us into the now. It brings us into the present moment. So an overview for those of you guys who like and appreciate what's coming up. So again, today, increasing our awareness and attention using the analogy of turning on a light. Now for some of us, that might be as quick and easy as an on-off switch. But for the rest of us, it might take a couple of personal epiphanies and aha moments to get there, kind of like a dimmer switch. And here's a couple of Susie-isms. So if we can acknowledge it, we can change it. So until that is, it is what it is, until it isn't. So gaining that acknowledgement and then being able to change it. And if we can personally identify it and resonate with it, then we can control and tame it. So once we have that awareness, what are we going to do with it? That's the focus on our second talk of the series, intention. So we've got the light switch on, so where are we shining it? We want to be able to focus that light and shine that in a more healthful and efficient direction. So we're building perspective, because how do we know what we're doing if we don't know what we can do? So just like the runners in the Shamrock Run, we're going to tap into your potential. And then finally, wrapping it all up, tying it all together, is reverberation. So how can we fine-tune all of those techniques so that, again, our timing of recognizing stress and the options with which to deal with it is sooner than later? So like with every journey, we need to have a starting point, and that is now, of connecting our mind, body, and spirit in a more efficient and healthful and stressless way, and being able to say, ah, there I am. And it all starts with energy. So the law of physics and how it relates to stress management is that we can neither create nor destroy energy. We can just transfer it. So all of us have been given or have a finite amount of energy. However, we can always have ways to tap into it and use that amount of energy to become more efficient. So our first poll. So why does stress management matter to you? Why is it important for you to manage your stress? Is it one, so that you feel better day to day, that you feel more productive? Is it a short time or shorter time effect? Or two, is it a long-term effect that is important to you when you're preventing or managing chronic conditions? 3, energy is contagious, so is it important to you to foster a more positive environment, be it work, home, social, for yourself and for others? Or 4, is it important for you to model healthful coping strategies for your children?
And there is one fifth option too, and that is all of the above. And I'm looking at this for myself. And by the way, go to your telephone or go to your keyboard right now and click the one that matters most for you. Why does stress management matter? And it feels like something that would be, you know, the tentacles of this would go throughout your entire life. I'm able to watch in real time as people are voting, and so far the least clicked one is number 4, modeling good health and coping for children, although our kids do watch us every day. The top one that people are responding to is the top one, feeling better day to day. That's got almost 20% of our respondents. So I think that is a real interesting result. Feeling better day to day is the one that people seem to be most interested in.
Thanks, guys. Okay. So moving forward, so as energy again relates to stress and kind of defining it in that way, I think a lot of us can relate to this first example of feeling stress. So when our perceived amount of energy is not enough for the present situation. So that can elicit feelings of being overwhelmed, anxious, nervous, fearful. It's the go, 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 should have been done yesterday. And kind of looks like this. So the second definition is the extreme opposite. And sometimes we don't really think of this as far as being, or in terms of feeling stressed. But again, it's not us being our best selves. It's not utilizing our energy in the most efficient way and not realizing our full potential. So this is when we have too much energy for the situation at hand. So we feel underwhelmed. We are bored, we're unchallenged, we're demotivated or unmotivated and unstimulated, and it kind of looks like this. So again, unproductive. We're not really growing ourselves.
So is that cat stressed right now? I can't tell.
Well, it's definitely not being productive, but
that's interesting. If I heard you correctly, you're saying that being bored can actually be stressful. I had never considered that before.
Yeah, and that's a really good input. Is that again, most of us, we don't think of being stressed in terms of energy levels. But again, to be our best self, we want to be able to realize what our potential is and having a sense and feel of that. It's nice to have options.
So you don't want to be overwhelmed, you don't want to be underwhelmed. That leaves.
Good segue there, Randy. So whelmed, which we're expanding our vocabulary. So this is feeling fulfilled, centered, balanced, calm, peaceful, satisfied, and kind of like this. So we don't necessarily want to live in any of these situations all the time. However, in order to build perspective, it's nice to get a taste of this and how we feel and move within each definition. So the types of stress, and this kind of depicts it. The two systems of the nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and when we're feeling stressed, it's usually that sympathetic nervous system button that's being pressed. So we're probably very familiar with the terms fight or flight, and we'll introduce a third one here in a second. And then the opposite, the balance point of the nervous system, is the parasympathetic branch, and that's the rest and digest. So within these, there's subcategories or categories, and there's eustress, so EU stress, which literally means good stress, and there's distress, which means negative stress. So examples would be wedding, baby, new job, pay raise for eustressors, and distressors, loss of job, divorce, death, moving, so kind of a loss or mourning or grieving feeling related to that. So what I want to stress here, or at least encourage you to think about, is that stress is not bad. It makes us human. However, how much of it and how we respond to it will make us healthy or unhealthy.
So there's no way to live your life avoiding stress or diminishing it, because, you know, hopefully there'll be weddings and babies and pay raises and such like that in your future. And there's no way to get around death, taxes, moving, right. That's all. Right. So it's figuring out how to live in that world.
So good input, Randy. So we cannot control our external environment. However, we can always control how we respond to it. Sometimes we just lose track of that. So stress casts a huge shadow. It affects all 11 systems that we have. So it's a huge ripple effect. Digestive, musculoskeletal, endocrine, nervous, urinary, cardiovascular, respiratory, integumentary or skin, and even reproductive. So it's a huge effect. So what we want, instead of like the seismograph, you know, earthquake, up and down, huge extremes, we want a homeostasis, so some healthy undulations between these two. So stress responses, what I encourage you to do here is pick which one you most identify with. And within that, think about how your body, mind, spirit reacts while you're in one of these stress responses. So the first one is the fight stress response. So this is where the muscles in the body are tight, they're tense, they're resisting and bracing against something or someone. They're prepared for action, and it looks kind of like this. So if you think about a fighter stance, a boxer stance, that would be the fight stress response. Preparation for action. So another stress response is the flight stress response. So again, very similar to the fight stress response, is that the muscles are tight, the body is tense. However, we're taking a part of that energy, and notice I said a part of that energy, and we're using it to flee or leave the situation. And it looks kind of like this. So the third one, it might be new to some of us, and it is the freeze stress response. So this is when our muscles are tight, so it has that relativity to the other two stress responses. But what separates this one from the other two is that the body is frozen. It's withdrawn and unmoving. There is no preparation for action. So this is kind of like a victim stance, and it looks exactly, well, not exactly, but it's the deer in the headlights. So
which of those three is the best? They all look bad to me.
Well, again, so it's a reaction of stress to an external scenario situation and how we perceive that scenario and situation. So there is no good, bad, or ugly. It's just, again, being aware that we're in stress, we're under stress, and then taking active steps to help remedy it and get to our best self in action steps so that it doesn't have the repercussions of having that sympathetic nervous system button pressed on. Because again, stress affects all 11 systems of the body. So if that button is stuck on, because this actually, these stress responses are, they're for a reason. They are built into our system for survival. However, we don't want to be stuck in survival mode. We want to thrive. So being able to realize that you're under stress sooner than later will help mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you thrive.
So I want to take a moment to remind our audience that if they have questions for you, they can type them in the questions box, and I will relay those to you as they pop in. I'll try not to interrupt.
Thanks, Randy. Good reminder. So this is where we suggest balance. And I love this. It's kind of ironic that we use rocks for balance, but hopefully this packs a punch visually. So if you notice, the top rock is fear. Almost all of our negative emotions have roots in fear. So anxiety, sadness, anger, and if you look at the bottom rock, the base, these are heavy hitters here: guilt, shame, resentment, which we'll address a little bit later. But that's offset, that's balanced by a positive emotion. And I use the word joy here, but it's important for you to insert the word that you best resonate. So it could be fulfilling, it could be peaceful, it could be happiness. But what the right side has all in common is that usually when we're experiencing that, we're either replaying an experience in the past, or we're anticipating, again with our perception, of a situation or scenario in the future. So it's taking us out of the present. So again, not good or bad. All of those emotions make us human. However, just like anything, we want a healthy balance between living in each of those emotions and recognizing when we are not doing that sooner than later. So now it's time to get personal. So there were some worksheets that were attached to the webinar. So if you have those, go ahead and pull those out now. If you don't have them, no worries, no stress. You can grab a piece of blank paper and a writing implement, and we're going to walk through those now. So recognizing, again, and you recall that I use the word perceiving or perception. So it's really important for us to in order to be successful, i.e. get out of a stressful situation sooner than later, is to recognize how we personally respond or react to stress. So the signs of being balanced and imbalanced. So internal states of being, and I just gave some examples here, but it's really, again, I encourage you to write down how you show up and how you feel and what you look like when you are imbalanced mentally. So examples here that I've put is that you feel like you're in a brain fog, you can't think, you're scattered, and some thoughts or mantras are, where did the day go? I never have enough time to get what I need done. So what do you feel like when you are mentally imbalanced? And then counter that, what do you feel like when you are balanced mentally? Do you feel focused? You feel productive? You have all your to-do lists complete? This can also have a physical element to it as well. Do you get headaches, migraines? Okay, so moving on to emotional. So when you're feeling imbalanced emotionally, what are some words that describe that for you? Do you feel overwhelmed, pressured, or withdrawn, removed? What are some words that describe that for you? And then the flip side, when you're emotionally balanced, what words describe that for you? Peaceful, calm, self-empowered, confident, in control. And then physically, when you're imbalanced physically, what words describe that for you? What do you feel like? Do you feel listless? Are you not exercising? Do you feel heavy, lethargic, unenergetic? And then balance physically. What is the description of you being balanced physically? What words? Energetic, light, free. And I want to backtrack just a second. So another example of being imbalanced physically is if you're in pain, if you have any muscle pain, if you have nerve pain, numbness, tingling, that can also be signs of being physically imbalanced. And then the last one, the internal state of being is spiritually. So when you're imbalanced spiritually, what describes that for you? Do you feel hopeless, depressed, uninspired? And then spiritually balanced, what defines that for you? Motivated, inspired, you have enough energy so that you can take care of others, so you feel caring and compassionate. Okay, so how about externally? So sometimes our external environment is a great visual cue to remind us that we need to start implementing some balance techniques, that our internal environment is out of balance. So some examples of external or the external environment cues, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Not moving consistently, so you haven't fulfilled your exercise regime. You don't, my horses give me joy, so for me, if I'm imbalanced, that's an external sign that if I'm not spending time with my horses. Not spending time with friends or family, or relationships are strained. There's chaos in the home, meaning that things are out of order, out of place, dirty, disarray. And there's no time for self-reflection, So no 5 thoughts of gratitude, which I employ, which is helpful for me to feel balanced. And no meditation, which for this doer, it's just sitting still. So that's my meditation definition. So what is yours? What are some environmental or external cues that can help remind you that internally you're feeling imbalanced? Okay, so the extreme opposite. So when you're feeling balanced, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, what does your external environment look like? So for me, I've got a consistent exercise routine. My social calendar is full. I'm spending time with friends and family, with my 4-legged kids, and I'm maybe not necessarily doing daily meditation and gratitude, but it's definitely consistent. So how about for you? What does that look like? Okay. So our second poll. So we're going to implement this in a couple of slides later. So what word best describes being in balance for you? We've got some examples, but you can definitely use the other categories. So I'm just going to go through this. So one is being free. Is that a word that encapsulates you being in balance? Or 2, light. 3, energized. You're full of energy. 4, are you in control? Are you self-confident? Or 5, what is your personal word that describes you being in balance?
When I look at these, I would like to feel like I'm in control, but that's just kidding yourself. Because that's almost like that's a coping mechanism for a world where we have far less control than we would like to admit. However, that is our second most popular answer, so I think a lot of people out there would agree with me. To feel in control is a nice feeling.
Mm-hmm.
We asked people if they would type other in the chat window. So far, nobody has suggested a different word, so I think they're pretty satisfied with your answers. And I'm going to close the poll now. The number 1 choice was energized. 43% of the people listening chose energized. 31% chose in control. And 11% picked a different word. I haven't written it in the chat window yet, but if they pop in, I'll let you know what they are.
Yeah, that would be great.
Being energized. That's the word that best describes being in balance, energized.
Which the 2 popular words, so energized and in control, is very helpful when we're looking at where we want to end up. So like with any journey, we were on the start line, but it's helpful and healthful to know what our destination is and when we've arrived.
I want to share some of those words are starting to pop in.
Nice.
We have calm and happy, peaceful, optimistic and hopeful. Those are good. Content. Order is another one. Calm, another calm. Happy. I like all of those. In fact, just reading that list, I feel better just reading through that list.
That's great.
Joyful,
thanks, guys.
Joyful, inspired, motivated, focused, and strong, too.
Wow, I love it. Thanks for participating. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And here's one question for you before you move on.
Yeah.
We have one of our people write in that they've heard that anxiety comes from your stomach. And this is where the deep breathing comes from. And they wonder if that's true, and if it is, if it possibly control their asthma. I personally think my anxiety comes from my boss, who's sitting in the other room right now.
So I'm sorry, Randy, what was exactly the question?
And if anxiety does come from the stomach, could deep breathing affect that, and could that possibly even help control asthma?
Oh, interesting. So it was a 2-part question.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, again, stress is a big shadow. So you mentioned two systems there, so the respiratory system and the digestive system. And sometimes, yeah, most definitely. I mean, it's amazing at when that sympathetic nervous button is pushed on, how that can control and manipulate hormones and neurotransmitters that affect those or have strong effects and negative and negating effects on those systems. So yeah, in fact, actually a little interesting side note. So for asthma and breathing, the connector, a lot of doctors, it's not uncommon for them to prescribe breathing because breathing, it focuses on or swimming, sorry, excuse me, because it focuses, you have to focus on your breath. So yeah, definitely big players.
Excellent.
Okay, I love this. Getting to your happy place. So this is your destination. This is the perspective builder. So when you're in the throes of stress, you need to know where to go to. You need that perspective. And this is your opportunity to create your personal perspective and descriptor of you being your best self or you coming alive. So using these questions, so what are you doing? Are you outside? And this is also where are you and who is with you. So are you outside climbing a mountain? Are you on the ocean on a boat, digging your toes in the sand? Who's with you? Are you with your pets? Are you with family and specific family? So the more specific you can get in describing what your best self looks, the more focused your direction and intention. So is it with your sister? Is it with friends? Is it with your best friend from college? So describe your best self, you being your best self, and or what it feels like, what you look like when you feel alive, and this is where your word that you used a couple slides ago, so that word
Joyful,
should be in here somewhere.
Inspired,
Yes.
motivated, strong,
Yes.
calm, happy, content.
Yeah.
So if I'm picturing myself in Costa Rica right now, floating in the warm water there, does that relieve my stress, or does it make me more irritated that I'm not there right now? I mean, is this a mental exercise to help us recall what that feeling is?
Yes, exactly. So it's not necessarily the situation or scenario, but it's the feeling that describes you in that situation or scenario. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that is our option list. Okay, so hopefully we've got a good descriptor of our happy place. So one of the most simple but powerful ways in which to get to our happy place is when we go to our dark side, and in this case it's the dark slide, no pun intended. So words like never, always, hate, dislike, they contain a lot of energy, and they reflect our thoughts, which reflect our feelings, which is in reaction or response to situations and scenarios. So, and I just gave a couple of examples here. So if we're using, so pay attention, increase your awareness of how you describe your environment, yourself, and others with using these words, or most importantly, so remember the guilt, resentment in the slide previous. So the words I should, I have to, or I need to. So those usually carry the really, really heavy negative weight of shame, resentment, and guilt. So in order to tap into our potential, so increase the energy or make what energy we have already present more efficient, this is a very simple way that we take statements and turn them into questions. So not in questions, so this is introspective questioning. Questions that really and honestly produce or answers. So they're evocative. So it's not shaming like, oh, why did I have that donut? I should have had a salad. So, for example, I hate broccoli. Well, I definitely am not going to eat broccoli, but if I want to get more nutrition or improve the nutrition of my diet, what other green vegetables can I eat?
So it sounds like you're telling us that we all have an internal conversation with ourselves going on in our own heads. And
we have voices in our heads, Randy.
Right, and we're playing both parts. And so if you can play both parts more effectively, you can reduce your own stress just by the way you talk to yourself inside your own head.
Exactly. Yep. Powerful. Yes. So it is, research has shown that when we become more curious, we increase our way of thinking, so we become more flexible in thought. And when we become more flexible in thought, we become more flexible in doing and being as well. So we've just increased our options. We are no longer feeling like we're backed into a corner, that we have no other direction or resources to go to, because we've taken that time and energy to say, okay, so what can I do?
We have one of our attendees who is mentioning the power of singing.
Interesting.
Says that yeah, they is in a choir, and sometimes she says she has to drag herself there after a long day, but she always feels better once she gets there, seeing the other people, breathing, thinking about the other things that are going other than things that might have gone wrong earlier in her day. As a wonderful social interaction, and it involves you physically. I think that's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I've not heard of that, but that's a great share.
Yeah, and Brenda mentions that dance is similar. If you have a terrible singing voice, like I may or may not, I can bust out some dance moves. I like both those ideas.
That's great. Thanks for contributing. So it's quiz time. So here's your question. What major organ sits on the diaphragm? This will lead us into our next slide. So is it 1, the stomach, 2, the heart, 3, the lungs, 4, the liver, or 5, another organ?
So this is where that anatomy class that you took in graduate school is going to help out a lot. So, so the question is, what major organ sits on your diaphragm? I know the diaphragm is somewhere up above my hips and below my armpits, so right in that area somewhere.
I think you got an A out of anatomy class.
So far, we have a runaway #1 answer. Everyone hates liver, by the way. Everyone hates liver. We only have 1% of the people who are saying liver. The liver is an unloved organ, but it is an unpopular answer. Stomach is coming up, and so I'm going to release the polls, but we do have a #1 most popular answer, and that is, most people say the lungs. 65% of our audience say lungs, 20% stomach, 14% heart, and the unpopular and unloved liver, only 1%.
And no other?
So what major organ sits on your diaphragm?
So the answer is those 14% TERS that answered heart. You got it right. So if you... The heart, yeah. So if you think about it, when you breathe, so the diaphragm is the major organ or muscle, sorry, that helps us to get inspiration, so breathe. You are massaging your heart. Your breath is more heartful. So speaking of breath, so the breath is, again, the telltale sign of what is going wrong in our life, and it brings us back to the now. So if we are able to pay attention to our breath, we can bring ourselves centered, focused, in control in any situation or scenario. So we're going to practice this. This is what we're going to end on. And I won't break out into the faith hill, just breathe. So find yourself in a comfortable sitting position, preferably with your feet on the floor. And you can breathe in through your nose, you can breathe out your mouth, you can breathe in through your mouth, you can breathe out your nose. Whatever works for you the best, whatever makes you more comfortable. So breath is amazing. So intentional focused breath is amazing because it is the opposite effect of stress. So it directly also affects all, well, indirectly or directly, affects all 11 systems in the body. And you hopefully take it with you wherever you go. So you can do this particular exercise wherever you are. So this is what we're going to do. But first, let me go over the muscles of inspiration and expiration. So most of us are familiar with the diaphragm. So if we've sang in a choir, we've played an instrument, or we practice yoga, we're very familiar with diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. However, there's other muscles that are involved, and that's the spare rib muscles, or the muscles that lie in between the ribs, and the accessory breathing muscles, the muscles in the front of the neck. And the muscles of expiration, so usually these are passive in just normal day-to-day breathing, but when we're under stress or when we're under physical stress, when we're exercising, they become more active process, and that's the core muscles, the abdominal muscles. So the rectus abdominis, the washboard stomach, internal external obliques, and then the deep, deep, deep muscle transversus abdominis. So we want to implement all of those muscles in this exercise. We're going to breathe for 60 seconds and try and shoot for 4 to 6 breaths. So they're full and deep, and I'll tell you when. I'll tell you when you're halfway there and when you've got about 5 seconds left. So I want you to count your breaths. Are we ready?
Ready.
All right, here we go. 60 seconds, full deep breaths. You're halfway through, guys. Good job. You got 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Stop. Don't stop breathing. You can stop counting.
5 for me. 5.
You're average. Nice job.
I am profoundly average.
So, hopefully you
Before you go on beyond that, that reminds me, when I watch sporting events, like a pitcher is about to deliver a pitch, he'll stand on the mound, and just before he goes into his windup, I'll see his, and the same thing like a quarterback will walk up to the center, and before he takes the snap, you'll see the quarterback go, and it dawns on me that they're taking a deep breath before they have to do something, and that breath must be helping them relax so they can do that thing they need to do.
Center and focused, yeah. Good observation. Well, thank you, everyone. That concludes the first part of our 3-part series. Thank you again for being here, and I look forward to having you join me April 20th.
All right, very good. And if you have questions after the webinar, then you can go to marketing@peacehealth.org. You can send those to us because we're going to be looking forward to seeing those. And your takeaway for today, so today was the first of a three-part series. Today was attention. We want to make sure that you're aware of your stress triggers, your stress responses, what brings you balance, and remember to breathe. Our next session is going to be taking place on Thursday, April 20th, again from noon to 1. If you'd like to register for that in advance, go to peacehealth.org/stress-less, and that's where you'll also be able to listen to a recording of today's presentation and also look at those handouts if you don't have those. And those include worksheets, suggested reading list, and again, a recorded copy of today's presentation. You can also go to peacehealth.org/email-sign-up and sign on for our monthly e-newsletter, which brings you brief health news. Nobody has time anymore to read anything in depth, so we'll give you the headlines in a little bit. We'll alert you to future webinars on a variety of different topics to help keep you healthy. Special offers that we have through PeaceHealth, upcoming local events where you could get out and socialize with people in your community. And again, that's peacehealth.org/email-sign-up. And one other order of business, we have our Fitbit to give away, and I am just handed the envelope, and just like in the Academy Awards, we're going to give it out to 7 people, and the 8th person, no, I'm just kidding. Our Fitbit winner is Austin. Austin, you are the winner of the Fitbit. So what we're going to do is email you. We have your email address. Congratulations on that, Austin. Look forward to that email. We'll arrange a delivery of that. And everybody who attended today, I hope you got something out of it. I enjoyed just listening in and sitting and breathing and having an hour to spend with you, Susie. I already feel refreshed. So thank you so very much for that.
Thank you.
And thanks to all to everybody who came and listened today. And remember again, peacehealth.org/stress-less. And one last thing before you go, we have a survey that we'd like you to take too. That'll be popping up on your screen in just a moment. Let us know how we did, and let us know how we can improve so that the next time you invest some time with us, that you'll consider it a great investment. We're here to help. peacehealth.org/healthy you. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your day.